All right, let's just jump right in. A lot of us feel like we're living in some pretty anxious times where it seems like the very foundations of society are shaking. Well, today we're going to look at an ancient text, Psalm 11, that gives us a really powerful way to think about and navigate that exact feeling.
Right out of the gate, the psalmist just hits you with this central gut punch of a question. And it feels incredibly relevant, doesn't it? When everything you count on, everything you rely on seems to be falling apart, what on earth are you supposed to do?
And boom, this is the immediate, almost defiant answer from the writer, David. Before he even gets into the details of the problem, he declares his solution. It's a statement that his safety, his refuge, isn't a place or some clever plan. It's rooted in his trust in God.
So, to really get what he's saying, you have to picture the scene. Psalm 11 isn't some quiet poem written in a library. No, this is a tense conversation happening in a moment of real and present danger. And David is getting some very, very urgent advice from his friends. This is what his advisors are telling him. And, it's logical advice, right? Get out of here. The threat is real. It's coming for you, and you need to escape to survive. They see a massive storm on the horizon, and they're screaming at him to find shelter, and fast.
And you can't really blame them for being so scared. They see assassins literally bending their bows, hiding in the shadows, ready to take out the innocent. But it's even bigger than that. It's this feeling that the entire social and moral order is just collapsing. So from their point of view, running isn't being a coward. It's the only sensible thing to do. So right here, you have the central conflict of the whole psalm. It's a choice between two completely different ways of seeing the world as it's falling apart. You've got the perspective of fear, which only sees the immediate, earthly threat. And then you have the perspective of faith, which sees something else entirely. So you can almost hear these two voices arguing. The voice of fear is pointing down at the ground, right? It's focused on the chaos, the assassins, the crumbling foundations. But the voice of faith responds by shifting your gaze completely upward, away from the collapsing world, and toward a steady, unshakable throne in heaven. And this is David's big counterargument. Now, he's not denying the danger. He's not putting his fingers in his ears and pretending his friends are wrong. Instead, he completely reframes the situation by focusing on a much bigger, much more solid reality: God's rule and his reign. This confidence David has is all built on this one core idea: sovereignty. And that's just the belief that even when everything on earth looks like it's spinning wildly out of control, there's a higher authority. There's a heavenly perspective from which nothing is out of control at all. And let's be clear, David is not being naive here. He totally gets the terrifying reality that yes, human foundations, our governments, our social structures, our institutions, they can and they absolutely do fail. The ground beneath our feet can genuinely feel like it's giving way. But, and this is the absolute key to the whole thing, that's not the only foundation there is. David's trust is built on something that earthly chaos can't even touch. So while this level is shaking, a higher one remains perfectly still, perfectly secure. You see, David's faith isn't just some blind optimism like wishing on a star. It's anchored in the specific character of God. He trusts God because he believes God is fundamentally good and righteous, that he loves justice, that he sees everything, nothing is hidden, and that in the end, he will hold everyone accountable.
Okay, so that's the ancient story. But how does this poem about a king in deep trouble actually speak to us today? Well, the connection is incredibly powerful, because honestly, this message feels more relevant now than ever before.
Let's just circle right back to that haunting question from the beginning. Does this feeling resonate with you today? This sense that the principles, the institutions, the things we once just took for granted are now cracking under all this pressure.
I mean, whether it's watching institutions lose public trust or seeing corruption seem to spread, or just a general feeling that civility and moral standards are breaking down, so many of us share those same anxieties David's friends had. The specific details might be different, but that core feeling, it's exactly the same.
So what's the big takeaway here? What are we supposed to do with this? See, Psalm 11 isn't just describing a problem. It's giving us a roadmap for how to respond. It's a call to a very specific kind of faith. And this is really the heart of it. Courageous faith isn't pretending the danger isn't real. David saw the bent bows. He knew. It's about looking that danger right in the eye, acknowledging it, and still choosing to put your ultimate trust in the bigger reality of God's sovereign control. So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, the psalm gives us a kind of three-step path. First, when fear hits, the go-to response isn't panic, it's prayer. Second, you consciously, intentionally anchor your thoughts in that bigger reality we talked about, God's sovereignty. And finally, you reframe the whole situation. This isn't just a threat, it's a test of your character. It's a call to stay true, to remain upright, especially when it's really, really hard. In the end, the central truth of Psalm 11 really just boils down to this one powerful, simple idea. When our world shakes, God's throne stands firm. Earthly foundations are, by their very nature, temporary. But the foundation of heaven is eternal. It's absolute.
And the psalm ends, not with fire and judgment, but with this incredible promise of hope. It suggests that the ultimate reward for holding on, for having that courageous faith through all the shaking, it isn't just about survival. It's about getting a deep, personal connection with the unshakable God himself. And that's a powerful thought to leave you with. What if we're called to trust, not just to be safe, but for the amazing reward of seeing what is ultimately and eternally true?